know the song Black Beatles in the Cities. Well, I'm gonna call this upset city because there's been a whole lot of upsets going on in the sport of boxing. I mean, 2024 has been the year of surprises, shocking upsets, and what better way to introduce coming off a night like Tank and Frank, Subriel Matias versus Leon Paro. Now, in case y'all didn't see, go back and watch Tank versus Frank post-fight reaction. Don't be lousy, don't be lazy. Go watch that one too. But today, this is about Leon Paro and Subriel Matias. Of course, yours truly chose Subriel Matias. I felt like the pressure would get to Leon Paro, but Leon Paro said, Breezy, shut your big. Nah, he ain't say all that. I'm just playing. But he did make me eat my words, and he ended up getting an upset over Subriel Matias, unanimous decision. And honestly, in the way he did it was wow. What a shutout. What a masterclass by Leon Paro. You could tell that Subriel Matias, he couldn't do anything past the jab. Leon Paro, he basically outboxed him. And the thing about it is, too, some people was actually saying that this fight's not going to go how a lot of people think it was Mario and, a few others. But, nevertheless, though, this was a very shocking fight. In terms of the outcome, of course, like I said, I thought Subriel Matias would win. And, it happens in the sport of boxing. Now, of course, y'all already know what we gonna do. We give our rates on the performance. Now, before I pass it over to my bro Mario, I do want to rate this performance. I give it about an 8. I feel like as far as the Subriel Matias, I think for the most part we kind of already knew if he got in there with a pure boxer, it would be a long night for him. And honestly, I don't know how sure I am that he fights Devin Haney or Tio, but I'm gonna be honest and go ahead and say this because right now I don't see the fight happening anytime soon as of right now. But I did think that they was gonna fight it at some point, and I did think Devin Haney was gonna kind of do what Leon Paro did, but I think Devin Haney was gonna do it to him in a more worser, devastating fashion, just due to his boxing style. But who am I to say that though? But I will say this: I do rate it about an 8. I think Leon Paro, for the most part, he came in and did what he was supposed to do. And like they say, you can only rely on power, punching power, and just standing there and banging it out for so long until somebody figures out your style. They figure out, your weaknesses and your advantages. And Leon Paro had all that to negate with Subriel Matias. But I didn't already get my rate. What do you rate this fight? What do you rate the overall game plan of both of these fighters?
Man, I gotta give it an 8 as well, honestly. When I really think about it, first of all, let me say this. Congratulations to Liam Paro on defeating Subriel Matias. Now I know I got the fighter right, but let me tell you something. We could have not we couldn't have been more wrong about how to win this fight. We could have not been wrong. I'm saying this. Usually I feel like we're pretty accurate when it comes to the game plan on how to defeat somebody. This one was the complete opposite. Let me explain why. My whole plan for Liam Paro was to box on the outside, use your footwork, because we knew he had power. And my whole keys for Liam Paro was to basically just outbox Subriel Matias, which he did. But here's where I was wrong. Do you know do you know how much guts you need to have to outbox Subriel Matias on the inside? That's all he outboxed him on the inside. He didn't go to the outside. They literally were like, me and you are gonna stand in the pocket, blow for blow, punch for punch, and I'm gonna outbox you. And he did that to Subriel Matias, a guy who had an 100% knockout ratio. He knocked out everybody. You said it. You said it clear as day. You said if you can't do anything to hurt Subriel Matias will hurt you. It didn't even look like Liam Paro hurt Subriel Matias. He just outboxed the crap out of him on the inside. And Subriel Matias, I feel like because of that high volume, he didn't have a lot of time to land those punches. The DAZN announcers, look, you know how we feel about DAZN. And look, I'm not always going to say DAZN does a terrible job. They've been putting up some bangers or some fights in Saudi Arabia. Obviously Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. So they've been doing a decent job. But what I will say is they were right when they were saying, where is that 80 punches around for Subriel Matias? Where's that high volume Subriel Matias? And we didn't see it. We saw Liam Paro on the inside just outboxing him. And not only that, but trust me, we read the comments. I read the comments about people thinking that Subriel Matias was an android, how Liam Paro basically got a good lucky win over Montana Love, and how he was just a hype job, and how Liam Paro was going to go to sleep in the 5th round. Look, Liam Paro took Subriel Matias' best hit. He had to fight not only Subriel Matias, but let's talk about that referee. They had a clinch, and the referee and Liam Paro gave like a little tap on the back of Subriel Matias's head, and the referee takes away 1 point. Now, get this: the referee is Puerto Rican, in a Puerto Rican crowd against a Puerto Rican fighter with a Puerto Rican ref. Am I the only one that thinks that's a little fishy? Am I the only one that thinks that's a little fishy? It was so bad, Breezy. The crowd was booing him. The crowd was booing the ref, and they're Puerto Rican, rooting for Subriel Matias. I I can't believe it, man. I couldn't believe it. But you know what? Liam Paro, he didn't cry. He didn't whine. He didn't complain. He said, you know what? I'm just going to keep outboxing Subriel Matias. I'm going to make these judges give me the decision. And that's exactly what he did. It was a masterclass by him. I will say, what I liked about Subriel Matias, he kept sticking him with that jab. We talked about how sticky that jab was. He kept sticking him with the jab. And on top of that, he was going to the body a lot with Subriel Matias too. And you could tell, I think Subriel Matias, those body shots started having an effect, because as the rounds went on, it looked like Subriel Matias was getting a little bit tired. But what amazed me was Liam Paro. You know, he's been knocked down before. He's been clipped by guys who we probably never even heard of. But what I will say is Subriel Matias hit him with some good shots, and Liam Paro looked him dead in his face and said, meet me on the inside and let's keep it going. And he just kept on punching and punching and punching through. I got to give that man a lot of credit. Look, that's a big, risky game plan. That is a risky game plan, because the worst could have happened. With that type of game plan, Liam Paro could have got his lights knocked out by somebody like Subriel Matias. But the fact that they say it, you know, it's one of the oldest quotes, but big risk, big rewards. And obviously, because of that big risk, Liam Paro is the new IBF 140-pound champion. So as far as strategy, you know, as far as performance, man, I gotta agree with you. I give it an 8. I think Subriel Matias did a good job of basically trying to stay on the inside and fight his fight, but this is a very rare example of getting beat at your own game. So I gotta give it an 8. Let's get to the next topic, Breezy, or not next topic, excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Let's get to the next category, excitement. When you look at this fight, how exciting do you think it was? Obviously, not many people peeped this fight because it was on the same day and in the same time as Tank Davis and Frank Martin, David Benavidez and Vosdick. But as far as excitement, when you go back and you look at this fight, what would you rate it?
I rated 7. And that's me being generous, because I honestly feel bad for Matias and Paro, because when you put a fight like that on the same day as a fight like Tank and Frank Martin and the Benavidez, it's like, in a way, it takes shine away. And I was reading the comments. A lot of people was like, oh, I ain't watched this fight. I'll watch Tank. I'll watch Frank and Tank. I'll watch the Mexican Monster. And I'm not here to say if you did that you're wrong or that's a bad thing or whatnot. But at the same time, as far as it comes to Matias and Paro, it's kind of like I feel bad for them in a way, because it's like, you know, couldn't y'all had that fight like maybe next week or the week before? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of putting fights on the same fight, because you know you do take credibility off of the fighters in that card, and also the undercard itself. But as far as excitement, I give it about a 7, because you had somebody like Liam Paro who was climbing up the ranks, who had an impressive performance against Montana Love. You had Subriel Matias, who was quote unquote the boogeyman of 140, and then not only that, but you had a title on the line. And one thing we know, between 135 and 140, you know, these fights are happening. The title is constantly changing hands. So the excitement was there. I'll give it about a 7. I won't put it at a 6, but I will give it a 7 due to the title being in stack. And plus, I'll give it a 7 due to the fact of you had somebody like a Matias who's this rugged, you know, puncher type style, and somebody like a Liam Paro who's a stylistic boxer and who can outclass you and outbox you in many ways.
Think it gets anything lower than a 7. You know, I think it's 7 and above, either way you look at it. Subriel Matias, I mean, this was the boogeyman of the 140-pound division. This was the guy that everybody had respect for, that nobody was fighting. Regardless of what the reasons were, nobody was fighting this guy. And Liam Paro said, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do what I got to do to win this fight. And when we first announced this fight, it was all about Subriel Matias. Then you actually start looking at how good of a boxer Liam Paro is. And you're like, hold up now. let's pump the brakes. You know what I'm saying? Let's slow down a little bit. Liam Paro has a chance to beat this guy. And when I saw the odds, I was like, I think Liam Paro is going to do it again. He's the upset kid. He did it to Montana Love in San Francisco. He did it to Subriel Matias in Puerto Rico. The guy's the upset kid. And I feel like Liam Paro, like I said in the last episode, if he beat Subriel Matias, his stock was going to skyrocket. And that's exactly what happened. And now we got a new 140-pound IBF champion. I'm gonna say this: as far as the fight itself, I give it a 7.5. I give it a 7.5. I'll bump it up because I feel like the punches were high volume. I feel like it wasn't just two guys swinging and just going punch for punch, but I feel like it was Liam Paro also doing some really good boxing on the inside and some boxing on the inside that we have not seen. Even though I don't think he significantly hurt Subriel Matias, I think he definitely outboxed him, and I feel like him outboxing him, Subriel Matias wasn't really comfortable with that. And when you're getting attacked with 10 punches, it's hard to throw one. And I said it. It's hard to hit somebody who can't be hit. And when Liam Paro is at his best, he can't be hit. And I'm going to say this right now. I don't think Liam Paro's defense was the best in this fight. You know, it wasn't the same Liam Paro that we saw recently where you just box on the outside, you find your moments and you attack. He stayed in that pocket. He gave the fans in Puerto Rico a great fight. He earned their respect. I mean, I got to give it a 7.5, Breezy. I truly believe this fight is a 7.5. So that's how I would give it for excitement. You know, DAZN put on a great show. And I mean, overall, as far as that fight itself, I think the main event lived up to its hype. Now, let's go with stakes. Obviously, you got the IBF title on the line. Subriel Matias is not undefeated, but again, 20 wins, 20 knockouts. Liam Paro was undefeated. As far as stakes, where would you kind of put this? As far as like what was on the line and what this fight meant, where would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I will put it around the lines of like about a 8. Why does Breezy put it at an 8? I'm explaining to you why. I put this fight at an 8 because look at it like this, right? At the end of the day, Devin Haney, T.O., Pitbull, those guys still have to see each other. The only way you have to be undisputed in that division is for those guys to fight each other. And what was the most talked about name? Subriel Matias, the power, the aggressiveness, the style, just the whole mental wear and tear he puts on you when he's in the inside. And it's kind of like what I said for like the heavyweight division, right? Once the title changes hands, it brings new chemistry. It brings new element to different fights happening, different styles engaging with each other. I feel the same way about the 140-pound division. You know, since Subriel Matias has lost, does Pitbull, Haney, and T.O. And it's not to say that these guys were ducking Subriel Matias. I'm not trying to say that by any stretch of the nature, so I don't want that to come off that way. But do these guys go straight for Liam Paro? Do these guys fight each other? Do these guys, you know, move up? Do these guys fight their mandatories? It brings new element to things. So honestly, the stakes is real high for it. You know what I'm saying? And not only that too, but you have two punchers in T.O. and Pitbull, and you got two stylistic boxers in Paro and Haney. Bro, this is fire. Pull out the grill and pull a steak on and put some barbecue on. This is a fire division we got right now in the 140-pound division. So it is very high. You know what? Screw that. 9.
9. That all right, all right. I like the enthusiasm. I like the enthusiasm. Look, I'm gonna say this right now. After Liam Paro just won that fight, I think this 140-pound division is gonna be more open than a Waffle House, man. You know what I'm saying? I think it's gonna be more open than the Waffle House, more open than the 24-hour CVS. You know, hey, look, I'm not gonna go any more too far, but it's open. You know what I'm saying? We remember what happened when Kambosos defeated Teofimo Lopez and he ended up winning all those belts. Devin Haney started stepping up. Everybody started calling out Kambosos, and I feel like they're looking at Liam Paro as an easier fight than Subriel Matias, in my opinion. Now, what I will say is this: I was gonna give it a 7, but after you said that, I gotta give it an 8. I gotta give it an 8, man, because the reason why I changed my mind was because you started saying that it's really starting to grill up like a steak, and that's absolutely true. The way I look at it is now since Liam Paro is champion, he takes that spot that Subriel Matias had. Now, a lot of people were looking at Subriel Matias as a risk because of how strong he was, because of how dangerous of a puncher he was. But because Liam Paro took that spot, and because he's not as dangerous as a puncher as Subriel Matias, but he's a very good boxer, a lot of guys are going to want to get in the ring with Liam Paro now. And look, it's day zone, and there's a lot of fights you can make, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But I got to give it an 8, man. I have a good feeling this is going to heat up. In the stakes for it, we got a new IBF champion. I said that for the third time now. My apologies, but Liam Parr was an undefeated champion. He's in one of the most stacked 140-pound division. And let's not forget, this is a division where most of the fighters are day zone fighters. Think about it. I'm not just talking about the champions. Devin Haney, day zone fighter. Ryan Garcia, whenever he comes back, day zone fighter. Jack Catterall, day zone fighter. I mean, we can keep on going on and on. He might need to do a Subriel Matias rematch. Day zone fighter. There's a lot of fighters in that 140-pound division that are day zone fighters. And I feel like because Liam Paro just won this fight, a lot of doors are going to start opening up. So I'm going to give it an 8. And last but not least, impact. What impact does this have not only on the division, but the sport of boxing on a scale of 1 to 10? Breezy, let me get your impact. And no, we are not talking about TNA. We are talking about the impact of a fight. So give me your impact, Breezy. Scale of 1 to 10. How do you rate it?
I'm gonna say it again. 9. Bro, I don't care what nobody say. Old head, new media, old media. When you have 4 guys and 2 of those guys are punchers and the other 2 are boxers, I don't care. You can put the puncher, you can put the puncher with the boxer with the boxer, the puncher with the puncher. It's gonna still be chemistry. And guess what, bro? Imagine if we have an undisputed champion between now and early 2025, bro. You know how exciting that would be, not only just for 140 pounds, but for boxing itself. I mean, come on, look, the heavyweights turning it up. We just saw last night 135 is turning it up. You gotta. I'm not saying y'all have to, because I understand everybody look at things differently. But if you ask me, I gotta give it a 9, man. It's a lot of things you can do at that division, and not only that too, but you can do rematches, trilogies. Oh my, I can go on all day. I can go on all day. So much you can do in the 140-pound division. Jack Catterall, like he said, Josh Taylor, even though he lost to Jack, Styles make fights, man. So it's a lot you can do at 140.
7. I think the impact is big in the division. I don't think it's big in the sport of boxing. I think it's big in that division. I give it a 7. The reason why I give it a 7 is because I do think, like I said before, it's going to start opening up fights now that Liam Paro is champion. However, once Liam Paro fights one of those champions, let's suppose Liam Paro wins. All right. He's going to keep on climbing, and they're going to keep on giving him tough competition. But if he loses, suppose he goes in there with a Devin Haney and he loses. Now, all of a sudden, we're right back to square one. It's the same 3 guys that just don't fight each other, and that's why I gave it a 7, because I can't say it's a guaranteed impact. I think the impact depends on if Liam Paro continues to win and continues to upset guys. But I think the reason why I put it at a 7 is because if Liam Paro doesn't win, I feel like we're just back at square one. Boxing is a politics sport. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of politics behind it. So somebody like Devin Haney will take those fights, but Teofimo isn't going to offer that fight to Devin Haney. Pitbull Cruz, I don't think he's going to get that fight with Devin Haney. And on top of that, you really look at it, those guys are all in different promotions. Teofimo, Top Rank. Devin Haney, DAZN. Pitbull Cruz, PBC in a way. So what I like to say is I do feel like if Devin Haney, let's suppose Devin Haney beats Liam Paro, most likely that would be the most likely fight out of the 4 champions that are going to fight would be Devin Haney and Liam Paro. If he beats Liam Paro, we're right back at square one. So there's no guaranteed impact, which is why I give it a 7.
I do want to note Devin Haney's not really necessarily contractually signed to a certain brand. He's kind of like moving around. He can go to Top Rank, the Zone, whatever, by his choosing. I did want to put that out there. He kind of does move around.
Yeah, but mostly he's DAZN. Occasionally he'll do like Top Rank. Obviously, he did it with Lomachenko and Kambosos. But I feel like the reason why he did it with them was because he needed to make the fights happen. It was going to be on Top Rank because of Loma, and it was going to be on Top Rank because Kambosos was champion. He had the clauses, he had the terms. So overall, if it's up to Devin Haney, I feel like he chooses DAZN to have a fight. Obviously we saw Ryan Garcia. It was on DAZN because obviously Ryan Garcia is a DAZN fighter. But yeah, as far as impact, I got to give it a 7 because nothing's guaranteed out of this besides we're going to make more fights happen, which is great. But at the same time, if Liam Paro loses, we're right back to square one. So I feel like the impact right now for me has got to be a 7. You got any other thoughts, Breezy, before we give the final fight grade?
Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. I'm telling y'all right now, we got Shakur and Artem fight coming on the way. That's 135 pounds. Be on the lookout in general, just with any upcoming fights, man. Boxing is cooking and steaming right now.
Overall fight grade, guys. 7.93. That's pretty high on the list, man. It is pretty high on the list. It's not above Tank and Frank, and I don't think it should be above Tank and Frank, but it's right below it at 7.93. It is the 4th ranked fight that we have predicted. I do want to let you guys know, since we didn't mention it in the last episode, as far as prediction score, me and Breezy, we have a little like friendly competition as far as like prediction score. Breezy is up by 1 point. It is 10-9, but it's a pretty close race, and we got some more fights to predict in season 3. So make sure y'all stay tuned. And you heard him. Now, look, we're not going to say subscribe. We're not going to say like. We're not going to say comment, even though you should do those things. What we're going to tell you is, again, the reason why you should stick with the Puncher's Point. We got the hot takes. We got the pre-fights. We got the post-fights. We got the news. We got all of it going on. And we make sure that we give you guys the best news, the best analysis. We're not biased most of the time. I mean, we're going to be biased come Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. But as far as real fights, we're not biased. We like to kind of keep it. We like to kind of keep it non-biased. We like to kind of keep it fair. And what are the channels are doing that? What are the channels do you know that are delivering like the Puncher's Point? No disrespect to them, but I'm telling you, y'all are definitely going to want to be on the rise. You're definitely going to want to be a part of the Puncher's Point family. And with that being said, I'm going to say it one more time, and I'm going to keep saying it until y'all do what you're supposed to do. Stay on point with the Puncher's Point.